Hey Next Economy Now listeners, we're excited to announce that registration for our spring cohort of the Next Economy MBA is officially open. Beginning March 25th, 2025, this 9-month facilitated learning journey was created for listeners like you, the entrepreneurs, artists, community leaders, and other folks on the front lines of the next economy. Based on our 15 years of experience working with over 300 different social enterprises, we'll explore the pitfalls of the business-as-usual economy and dive into key business principles from a regenerative and just perspective, all while fostering the community and connection we need to stay resilient, inspired, and motivated in our movement for global change. Interested in learning more? Join us for a free intro session where you can meet course facilitators and hear from our amazing alumni to determine if the course is a fit for you. Plus, you can save 20% on tuition when you register before February 3rd during our early bird sale. Get started at lifteconomy.com/MBA. Thanks for listening, and now onto the show.
Welcome to Next Economy Now. The goal of this podcast series is to highlight the leaders who are taking a regenerative, bioregional, equitable, democratic, racially just, and whole systems approach to creating the new economy.
My name is Sean Berry. I'm a partner at Lift Economy, and today my guest is Tameka Peoples. Tameka is with Seed to Shirt, and this is our privilege to have her on Next Economy Now for a second time. She was on back in March of 2022, and Seed to Shirt has been growing by leaps and bounds. So we wanted to catch up with Tameka again and hear all the good updates. Tameka, welcome to Next Economy Now.
Thank you so much, Sean. It's always so good being with you guys. Thank you for having me again. I'm happy that the listeners are willing to hear a little bit about what we're doing and what we're up to.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us. And so I'd love to invite you to share some of your background and how you got into this work. And of course, we have the first episode. We'll link. So today we're gonna focus a little bit more on the updates of what's been going on at Seed to Shirt. But lead us on in with how you got to where you are.
Let's walk on that journey, right? So I always like to tell people that Seed to Shirt is a social enterprise program-focused company that really is looking to heal and repair Black Indigenous people's relationship with cotton and textile systems. And we do that through the lens of cotton farming and land restoration. And oftentimes our front-facing products are the final product of things that we cultivate and create from those cotton farmers' cotton, which for us is our t-shirt, and most recently our crocheting and knitting yarn, and I'm sure there'll be much more coming here for us in the future. So I was want to level set on who we are and what we do and why we're doing it. So yes, I'm Tameka Peoples. I'm founder of Seed to Shirt. I started this work back in 2017, 18 timeframe, and I did it. Obviously, for me, it was about what I wasn't seeing in the market and what I needed in community, right? So I was trying to merge these two worlds of the work I was doing in the community, the fact that I wanted a product that really pulled value from the community that I was working within, and how did I do that? So I wanted it to do it through a shirt, and I realized that there wasn't a product out there that was going from Seed to Shirt that could take and honor the Black cotton farmers and the seamstress and the workers behind it, and then offer it to a community as a blank canvas. So I did the hard work to create that. So yeah, that's what, the why and the impetus. And I don't come from a textile or fashion background. I am a solutionist at heart. I'm a community lover. I love my people. I love my community, and I love the land. And so when you know better, you do better. So I began to learn and discover what was missing, what were the challenges our farmers were facing, what was really going on in the cotton industry. And so that's how we got started building what it is we've built.
Wonderful. Just appreciate how important that vision is at this time when, very few of our industries and solutions are vertically integrated, right? Have like a deep connection to source and ecological and social awareness that you're bringing. And also just recognizing it's like a big it's a big challenge, right? It's a big hill to climb to try to create some integrity in the supply chain. So tell us give us
new?
the updates. What's new?
Yeah, right. So since we last talked, it was really about the shirt and our farmers, and we were doing this farmer enrichment program. You guys probably heard a little bit about that in the first discussion. I would say we doubled down on our programmatic work here within the U.S. We obviously be doing some great work across West Africa and Burkina Faso. There's some extensions of that which you'll hear about later, but we really turned our mind's eye and energy, of course, to our Black farmer community here in the U.S. And how can we do a deep programmatic work around one, not supporting those farmers, but also bringing in folks beyond us into that level of support, and then bringing forward product and material from that. So what's new for us is we've added an additional product line and offering, which is our yarn, and I'll talk about here in a moment. And we also expanded how we partner in order to work more deeply with our growers across the Southeast. Internally as a company, we are a global cotton merchant, and we also do product, right? So we realized that we needed to be able to pool our cotton farmers into a pooled resource, so that for not just for ourselves who wanted to use their cotton, for others to be able to use their cotton. So internally, we created a collective. We call it the Black Collective, which allows Black cotton farmers, here more specifically in the U.S., to join as members, get some benefits, which I'll share, and for us to be able to use their cotton, and for the brands and by which we work with to be able to source that cotton, and to help those farmers transition to more sustainable cotton growing practices, which is really key, right? It helps them with market space and market cap, as one might call it. It also helps the land, and it really infuses what they could do with that cotton and earn different premiums from what the current cotton commodity prices offer, right? So the Black Collective is our way of pooling our cotton farmers together here in the U.S., as well as providing them support and resources. So we developed very specific programming within that, right, to address access to capital. Access to capital was the number one challenge of Black farmers in general, but specifically for Black cotton farmers, who are very, very few here in the U.S. Their barriers are significant. And so we created a deep partnership with local ag retail organization in the Southeast to support ag retail relationships with the farmers, so that they can have better access to inputs, better access to things that they'll need to transition to these more sustainable practices. And that's called our Ag Backed program within our Black Collective, that members get for free, but it's our way of making sure they have what they need. Another element of that work and of our Black Collective membership to those growers is they get more direct access to capital with our partners, like organizations like Pot Liquor, and organizations like there's ARM, which is a finance organization for agricultural industry, who created a direct lending program for our growers, which is very helpful, right? Because again, if there's a barrier to capital, and banks are denying them, how then are these farmers supposed to get involved in more sustainably enriching practices when that costs money? It takes resources. So that was really critical. So the Black Collective is one new initiative within the Seed to Shirt Farmer Enrichment Program that's U.S. focused, about pooling our cotton farmers, and actually about supporting them with wraparound resources and services. That includes the tools that they would need for that. Another new thing that we're working on, Sean and team, is we are created a 5-year collaborative partnership with organizations like Fibershed, National Center for Appropriate Technology, Colorado State University, Carbon Cycle Institute, New York Textile Lab, and we came together and wrote for a project and a grant within USDA that's really focused on climate smart commodities. Y'all may have heard about Climate Smart Commodities project that came out probably at end of 2020 or so, that was released. We were one of the national programs that was awarded. So that's a $30 million 5-year project that is committed to work across the U.S., focused on fiber systems like wool and cotton, and bringing forward Fibershed's climate beneficial verified program and initiatives and expanding that across multiple regions in the US, right? And layering resources that USDA would provide to incentivize folks to adopt more sustainable practices, right? So our climate fiber partnership program is, focused on bringing that forward. 18 million will go to growers across the US, and Seed to Shirt is responsible for the work that will be happening across the Southeast. We cover Tennessee, North Carolina, Georgia, Alabama, and we focus on bringing in Black cotton farmers into this work and making sure they have institutional support through the USDA program to do that. We are really proud of that work. We have 7 growers in that work already, and we're in our second year running, and that's a good thing. We've deployed, well over 50,000 in resources, and then we're continuing to add farmers and people to the work so that they can have the resources that they need, institutional support that they need in order to come into more climate resilient cotton growing practices. So that's another, really, I feel like a hallmark initiative for Seed to Shirt that actually brings along more partners to support the growers that we're working with. And I would say another thing we did is continue to expand our relationships across Black Fiber Textile Systems. We've become a member of Black Fiber and Textile Network, which is, founded and run by Teju Adesa Ferrara, who is an amazing advocate in this space, does beautiful work around Black and Fiber Textile Systems globally. This is a global network bringing together Black and fiber textile artists across the world to leverage each other as a not as a ecosystem, but as a system of systems and an approach of more of a network approach of we're each other's network and we can build and grow together. So just expanding like the way by which we work and support our farmers was critical to us. And then, there's the new product line, right? We do small batch t-shirts. We never want to be a part of the fast fashion problem. We do intentional production of those shirts. But we also realize that there are other artists and makers out there who were, quite frankly, knocking at our door and saying, listen, we love it, but maybe we're not a t-shirt person. Is there a way that we can have more access to your products? And so we created a crocheting yarn, which is what I would call a crafter's yarn, right? And it's 100% made here in the US. We source the cotton from Black cotton farmers. It's all natural, undyed, untreated yarn. And that yarn we just launched this year, and I was really excited about that. We work exclusively with one of our Black farmers out of South Carolina, who was a first-generation cotton farmer, which is beautiful, right? Because we're first generation doing some of this work, right? And brought forward this new product, and so folks can get that stuff on our site now. We'll be coming out in 2025 with more ways by which you can do that. We might even offer some, quiet as it's kept ways that we might do some special batch dyeing. But that was beautiful. I have so much more, right? I would love to talk about the pilot farm as well that we're doing, but I can run, Sean, so I want to have you help guide this. But those are the main things that we really focused on this year. So much.
Yeah, I'm just encouraged, right, to hear about all the progress because this is so needed, right? Again, like I was saying before, just the connection of systems that have been disconnected. And so, of course, in this country, a lot of production has been sent abroad as if folks don't want to produce here or something like that. And so, I myself was in manufacturing, and I know it's not true that people don't want to work with their hands in this country. That's just part of being, as far as I can tell, it's part of being alive and human is to like touch and be connected and to the place where we live, right? And so instead of this kind of global craziness of extract the raw material from the cheapest place on the earth and then send it to the cheapest place to get the people to produce it and then send it to the place where you can sell it for the most money, right? That has become normal. Some crazy somehow, and also very powerful pattern that's hard to disrupt. So again, just want to celebrate the work to build the roots, and you're doing it with the farmers, all the programs you talked about, the access to land and capital and pooling the producers, right, as a collective to have more selling power and resources. That this is the way. So I'm just really grateful for your leadership and the work that y'all are doing.
Yeah, I was so excited this year. I don't know if these were like major turning points, but I'm always really honored for just when I think about networks, I think about connection. At the end of the day, I think about connection. And every day we are connected to the earth, we are connected to people, and we should be creating a symbiotic, mutually value exchange relationship with those connections. And so that's the intentionality around the work that Seat to Shirt really does is connecting. And it's really the work I appreciate about Fibershed and the Black Fiber and Textile Network is at the end of the day, we are connected humans and we're all a tapestry in what, the earth will look like now and in the future. And so we have a very profound responsibility to to address those connections. And this year has been such a milestone year for Seed to Shirt in a way that organizations, platforming organizations, I would say, and international and global organizations like Fibershed and let's say Textile Exchange, right? And brands like Everlane who decided and committed to investing in the work that Fibershed and Seed to Shirt are doing to bring forward these more resilient practices across the nation. Right? Just saying, hey, we're going to put our money where our mouth is at. And brands and people and everyone have this level of responsibility. So we're appreciative of the connection to our network. It's kind of how I've even thought about the reasonings behind the work we do on our pilot farm. We want it to be and show a beacon in this space to folks about how this gets done. Right. So this year we really brought forward the work of our pilot farm as an organization to highlight the small batch growing of cotton, the dye plants and dye lots that you can grow on your own landscape and actually dye your own fiber. So People's Freedom Farm is really our way of saying to the world, we are here. This is the work that can be done and should be done. Before we launched our yarn, we grew our own marigolds and our own coreopsis. We harvested by ourselves, by our own hands, our entire team. And we invited local artists, artisans, dye professionals to come out with us on the land and to dye the yarn and showcase that. Right. And we were really proud of the Black Fibers Textile Network for creating the network so that we could even find other Black artisans who do that work. Right. So People's Freedom Farm is about the beacon to the world that we want the world to be when it comes to fiber and textiles. It's located in North Carolina. It's in and near a community called Rocky Mount, which is a beautiful historic community. And the cotton that we grew there this year was all organic cotton, right? And so there's some who might argue that organic cotton can't be done in the Southeast. And we are trialing it and we're working through what that looks like. We've been able to partner with North Carolina State University. And this year we'll be doing even more things like testing and trialing textile grade industrial hemp as a part of the NSF National Science Foundation's Greening North Carolina initiative. So it's these things, right, that helps us show that you can have regional production systems here in the U.S. again. They can be intentional and land-centered and people-centered. And quite frankly, you can have the product and the consumer who will support that, and brands who will come alongside you and support that. And speaking to our global work, right, we're a connected people globally. Y'all may know from the background of the work that, we started this work in Africa. And the world's waste ends up on Africa's shores in Ghana, right? There's beautiful cultural materials and textiles made out of Ghana, but with fibers they might source from other locations, right? So we are in the Western African region in Burkina Faso. Ghana is a neighbor. We started to work with work within the northern region of Ghana to address like what happened to the cotton industry and why are we importing raw materials. Ghana is rich in fertile land and have created cotton and raw materials beautifully, if not for the things that may have caused that industry to collapse, right? So we started a very small pilot project intimately with growers there in the northern Tamale region to address, hey, how do we bring cotton back in a way that honors our indigenous practices, values how we produce and what we produce? We're growing small plots of cotton. We're actually going to be transforming that into locals woven samak, traditional garments, all from the cotton we grow. And this is not to prove a model. This is to show we are the model, right? And if an industry dies, it is upon incumbent on the people to not think of it as an industry, to embrace it as their culture and their cultural practices, and to lean into how they do that again. And so our Ghana and our work in Africa is about very similarly about the work that we do with intention globally, right? Is grow locally, honor the land, honor the people, honor what we produce naturally as a culture in this region, and do it in a way that doesn't lean on this model of extraction. There'll be elements of that project where we'll start to lean into, hey, what does recycles look like? How do we lean into, cleaning up what we know is the waste issue in the country caused by, I don't like these terms, but I'm going to say it, the global north. Okay. The Ghana project and our work there is intrinsically tied to who we are as a people and quite frankly, as a company. So, and it's connected. We're creating these models where we can have levels of exchange and discovery and bringing over students and work, and there's going to be so many great things. And I guess that leads me to, from an update perspective, in our U.S. work, what will it take for us to bring back a regional textile system in North Carolina that can center land-based work and production that can be valued, right? We've already did the yarn. We're working on these other things, but we created a very intentional relationship with institutions in North Carolina. You heard me talk about North Carolina State University and our research and development work we're doing with the NSF project. We've been for the last 2 years working with Gaston College. Gaston College in North Carolina is known for the top textile training and education center for textile professionals in the state, and one could argue globally, right? And they do a lot of partner and exchange work with NC State, which is, of course, a global leader in that space. But our intention at Gaston was to create a pipeline for the industry that we are looking to have in the state, right? A sustain workforce that is focused on sustainability in textile production, which means that you have to invest in the education around that. So we partnered with Gaston College and Jasmine Cox, who's the director and the dean of their School of Textiles, and created a sustainable course curriculum that we're second year in the running doing this, where we're working with their Textile 101 and 102 students on sustainable models of production in textile, ways that you can innovate within that and produce at scale. And then that course, then it transitions to their designers course, right? Where there's young designers who are learning how to upcycle produce and think about small batch production or scalable, sustainable production that they can do it all the way from the textile to the final product and their final design. So this year, that culminated. For each year, we do a culmination and capstone for the students, right? Last year, the students were really focused on, textile processing. This year, the students were focused on design. In our capstone, we partnered with a Black Fiber and Textile Networks member, Gordon Holliday, who's the founder of Rolay. He's an upcycle design artist, and we created a design challenge for the students. They learned about sustainability in production. They created their own mood boards and actual final product line. And together we're collaborating to bring forward some things that, I can't fully announce right now, but I will say, it will be connected to the New York Fashion Week and some work that we'll be doing around showcasing these students' work, of course, in Gordon Holliday and Rolay showcasing their work. So, and they'll be using fibers created by Seed to Shirt and from our farmers and everything. So I'm really excited about that. And this is the value of a network, right? I think Teju would say this is a value of building a network like Black Fibers and Textile Networks because we can come together and collaborate. But most importantly, we can rebuild a U.S. pipeline of workers and professionals, textile and designers that not can only green North Carolina, but can green the industry. That's what we need, right? And there's levels to that, right? So when we green the industry, that means we got to start with the cotton. Check. Seed to Shirt is doing that, working on that in their own way, being a part of that solution. We've got to showcase products that can actually be used and bought by the consumer, and brands have to agree and support that, right? Check. We're doing that, right? And then secondly, if we want a new industry in the US, then we have to build it. And so what does the educational community look like when we do that? So our work with Gaston College, our work with NC State really highlights our ability to do that and build the future of sustainable regional textile and fiber production. And partners like FiberShed, beautiful partners like New York Textile Lab, who are also doing this in the upper New York region. They're doing beautiful work. You should absolutely check out New York Textile Lab if you're in this space. You should absolutely check out FiberShed and the work that they're doing to build climate beneficial growing methodologies for wool producers and cotton producers globally. And I guess if I'm plugging, let's make the ultimate plug for Black and Indigenous people of color networks, but certainly Black textile networks to be honored, rebuilt, and uplifted in the work of sustainability and production. And that is being done by beautiful organizations like Black Fiber and Textile Network and Seed to Shirt and Rolay and Gordon with FiberShed. So all of these members and people who are doing this work are doing it in a way that is building the new future of economies. It's building the next economy.
Yes. Oh, very well said. And yeah, I'm just celebrating because we at Lift Economy have the good fortune of knowing Teju and the Black Fiber cohort. We've been able to work with Gordon and Mandia and Ade and Kasiana, and they're all just doing such an amazing work. So I very much agree with you of like, this is the kind of front edge of leading by example, right? From the ground up. So it's really beautiful. And also, I'm just remembering meeting you just a couple months ago, right? At the Sheep and Wool Festival. And the FiberShed Village was off the hook. What? How many? There was what? A bunch of chapters?
Well, there's 6 chapters. I was
Oh.
going to be speaking with New Jersey FiberShed. As I mentioned, it's our work to trial what this can look like. We're working with New York Textile Lab in that region, just trying to honor what's happening in each location in the world and leaning into that. We're better together than we are divided and apart. And this conversation, Sean, but most importantly, the actions I know that all of us are taking, that is the secret sauce. That's the secret sauce. We've been supported this year by so many beautiful organizations. People have invited us to talk. We're more honored when we do the work. Sometimes I find it very hard to sit in this space and be the face. But at the end of the day, I am. And I think when I do, I have a responsibility to bring forward what we need. We're going to come upon many, many challenges. And what I would say is what we need in this industry as we're building back sustainability, regionality, ethical ways by which we move in and across networks around continents, right? The challenge is we need consumers to be more educated about what it is you are putting on your body. There's simple things you can do, but some of the things I would like to uplift is, the work and the white papers that FiberShed is putting out about plastics in your clothing, how you can look internally and do the closet challenge and say, hey, what's really going on here? And then when you know better, do better. So what that means is you now have to put your money where your mouth is, because quite frankly, the only way we have this shift is if the consumers shift their buying patterns, because brands are going to they live by bottom lines. I'm not going to, beat up a brand. At the end of the day, they have to still meet their bottom line. So their consumer has to drive what it is they do, which means we need more educated consumers and for them to put their money where their mouth is at. Second, we need brands to think innovatively about how they lean into the sustainable work of fiber sourcing and programmatic delivery and messaging. And here's what I mean by that. A brand can source fiber at great, interesting premiums. It's sustainable fiber, comes into their network, they do what they have to do to make a final product. But most brands have two different arms to their company. They also have a social impact and a corporate social responsibility arm in their company. And so there's also ways through that arm of your company that you can support the necessary groundwork with organizations like Seed to Shirt and Fiber Shed and Black Fiber Textile Network, who are doing deep work on the ground to help these growers transition into these new practices. And the reason why you're seeing the cost be so different is because it actually takes money for these farmers to do that change. And the burden can't only be on the farmer. So if you have an arm within your company that does granting, that does any type of social impact giving, you should be thinking about how to invest in Seed to Shirt, Fiber Shed, Black and Fiber Textile Network, so that the transition on the ground can happen, which will impact the final price for the fiber that you may be interested in buying. And yes, there's a way to make sure that you don't innately inure to the benefit of, which we know. I'm a social enterprise, right? So I have a nonprofit arm and a for-profit arm. So I'm speaking different languages to different people right now. But there is a way that you can invest and source fiber, which will help drive down the premium and pricing. That's the only way we get out of change. We need consumers to know more about what's going on and what they're putting on and drive it with their money. We need brands to speak in two languages to us. One, as someone who will invest in practice change, and two, as someone who will understand why the fiber cost is what it is and be willing to pay that. And there are beautiful brands out there doing it. Everlane, Carhartt, there's many brands that we can name. I'm not going to name drop, but we need more of them.
Absolutely. And a part of the consumer education is understanding that as a consumer, we might be spending more on a particular article of clothing, but we can actually have a lower cost per wear, right? Because when you buy a signature line, a Seed to Shirt, blank, it's going to be around for decades, right? This isn't the fast fashion thing that's going to kind of fall apart and, turn into rags and get recycled. This thing it's going to be worn for a long time. And so this shift of consumerism from let me get a new wardrobe every fashion season, which is a really strange idea because clothes are durable, right? This isn't like a wrapping to be discarded, right? This is something to be cherished and passed on. And so when you have a really integral garment, right, that's grown by people who are connected to the land and produced in this supply chain, this is a precious item. And so maybe we have less, selection in the wardrobe, but each garment is an investment and has a legacy to it, right? So there's a different awareness to how we maybe clothe ourselves. And I think the thing, I guess what I'm interested in is getting the kind of the consumer mind to see that that's actually a higher quality existence. That touch and that feel of that fabric is actually healthier, because you're not absorbing, the chemicals on your skin and putting that into the ecosystem. And then you have that beautiful intentional garment that's with you for maybe your life. So it's a different awareness, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow, I'm so inspired by that, Sean. I think you're kind of wrapping us up into like, yeah, that's the perspective. that shift a little bit, right? That mentality shift. And I think we're getting there. Let's every day be a little bit better than you were yesterday. That's the consumer piece. But for our brands, for people who are listening, who have other ways and levers by which they can lean into this work. Again, Seed to Shirt is building a vertical. We're building what we believe is the new and should be the next way that we produce. And we're focusing on, the programmatic element of that, but we're also focusing on that middle ground, that textile element of that. And we are openly looking and exploring ways by which, even we can do things better with respect to, direct to consumer or direct to brand partner. So I would just encourage folks to, one, learn more. Certainly stay tuned. I mean, I don't know if I can get a next time with this beautiful team, but I'm sure in 5 years when we're continuing to move along, we'd be happy to come and continue to talk about these things. I always just like to talk about, the true challenges. The true challenges on the ground is, our farmers need us. Our communities are hurting and they need us. And how do we connect these two things? So if there are organizations out there, driving at this level of work, if not through a purchase, because I'm not trying to, drive super over consumerism. I do realize people consume, and we're working with major and great brands who have great and large consumers. But at the end of the day, when you're hopping on Seed to Shirt site and you're wondering how you can lean in, and maybe it's not a shirt today, but we do accept donations. Those donations are tax deductible for you. We put those resources directly into the growers and what they're needing as it relates to growing cotton better. And these are 100% growers who have been largely overlooked by this system, extracted from by this system, under-serviced by this system. And we're doing the hard work of creating a new system for them and what it could look like or what it should look like. So just know that that's where it goes, and every cent counts and every share counts. And we really appreciate this community from the bottom of our heart. We appreciate that you guys listen, that you guys are watching, that you support in whatever way you can. We appreciate you. And I'm so inspired by the work of Black Fiber Textile Networks. I don't even know how to begin. I think we always like to fold in who we're inspired by. It's the founder and the people within that network, because I know Teju was touching the world with this mission and what the network of networks is really working to build. And so I'm so inspired by who she is and what she's doing, but quite frankly, what we're all doing within the network to build it and to grow it. So I just want to say, I'm inspired by folks who are out here doing the work. Dominique Drakeford is I don't know if she knows this, but she is someone that fuels me daily. So profound in the knowledge and the research and the work that they're doing, that she's doing to educate the masses on culturally what the diaspora has given to the world and how we need to honor that, and why it's not okay that these sustainability spaces exist and they sometimes look the way they do. And we need to get back to connecting everyone to this work and how that can look and should look. I'm always inspired by Rebecca Burgess. I don't know if there's anyone that I know in the space, fighting the fight, doing the policy. I mean, what can you say about FiberShed and what they've inspired around the world, right? So, folks, I guess every day I'm just inspired by your work, and I thank you for your work. I thank you for what you're doing. I'm honored to know of you, even if it's from the distance and maybe we've never met in person. But I'm also honored by folks that we don't see, by folks that may sometimes go nameless in this space. Our seamstress, our textile workers, our farmers, I'm inspired by them.
Thanks so much, Tameka. Maybe you can just mention where folks can learn more about your work, and as we're coming to a close, any other final thoughts you want to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, just again, Sean, I'm always thankful for these conversations. I thank you and the listeners for listening. And you can find out more about our work at seed2shirt.com. That is seed, SEED, the number 2, the word shirt.com. That's our main page. You can hop in there and it will guide you to all the ways by which you can lean in or learn more. And just closing thoughts. Again, we all have an inherent responsibility. Every day we're connected to the land and to people and to this world. And what do you want to leave it as? And what impression do you want to have? So that's what I leave you with. That's my final thought. And if you're inspired by the work that Seed to Shirt is doing, please find us, support us, or reach out.
Thanks so much, Tameka.
Next Economy Now is a production of Lift Economy. To listen to all of our episodes, go to lifteconomy.com/podcast. That's LIFT economy.com/podcast. You can also sign up for our monthly newsletter at lifteconomy.com/newsletter. Please also rate and review our podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks for listening.